Welcome to the LongBox Paradox, episode 78. I am sure of the episode because I looked again. We are finally getting to doing our author spotlight, I guess we're going to call it.
The first one.
We're going to be discussing the works of Jonathan Hickman. As most everybody knows him now as House of X, Powers of X guy. He does have a large back catalog of Marvel work, Image work, no DC. But I'll get to the DC part because there's an interesting story about Powers of X and House of X and how that came to be. I am Dan, your host, and we have Jennifer. Comic Books Will Break Your Heart.
Formerly known as the artist Jin in Comics, but...
soon you're going to just go to a symbol.
Yeah,
like Prince.
You know, I'll do that. I'll come up with a symbol. It'll be... No.
Go check out her YouTube channel, which has one video on it currently.
One.
But it's about Alan Moore and Planetary, which are two of my favorite things. Plus, I get talked about in it, so, you know, of course it's great.
I actually ordered a better microphone system, and it's on its way. So
nice.
As soon as that comes in, people are going to be inundated with videos that will have me talking a little bit more clearly. So
that was fairly clear. I just... The AirPods, for some reason, I don't like that much. So wanted to get to some little news that's been out there. Two that are very much in our wheelhouse. The first one is the Sandman audiobook. What a cast.
Man, like, obviously James McAvoy. I love him.
I never would have thought of him as Morpheus. And as soon as I saw, I was like, oh, fuck. Well,
I think a while back he was wasn't he attached to doing Sandman, but with HBO? I thought for a minute.
No, it's Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
That's who I'm thinking of. But yeah. Why did I get those two beautiful human beings confused? They're both
they kind of look the same a little bit in the face. Do.
But I'm excited for James McAvoy, and like Kat Dennings is Death.
Oh, Michael Sheen is Lucifer? I mean, that whole cast, I'm like looking at it going, fuck, I never would have thought of that.
Yeah.
Matthew the Raven, I forgot who it was, but like the name on, I was like, oh, like absolutely, why would I not have thought of that? Mm-hmm. But also, yeah, Kat Dennings is Death. Again, that was another one I was like, not who I would have normally picked, but you'll have that bubbly kind of sort of innocent sarcasm.
Yeah.
We're getting Dune, House Atreides. Limited series comic book. Just give me all the covers.
I feel like when it comes to the Dune series, and like we'll probably talk about this more like as more comes out, and when we do have our Dune over episode where we actually like go more into detail with it. But I feel like the Chapter House books, like I feel like all of those are just shat on. Because of his son and
Kevin J. Anderson.
So I'm curious. Like, I saw that it was coming out, and I'm like, okay, I'm here for like a Dune comic book, but I'm glad that they're doing that and not the Dune like a graphic novelization of the novel. I
kind of like want Bill Sienkiewicz covers for the books, especially since he did the original graphic novel for David Lynch's Dune.
I would almost want David Mack doing the covers.
Like, I'd be down for that too.
I think that would be really.
I'll tell you what I really want. I want a Lady Jessica Tula-Lotay cover.
Please. Yep.
Or Bene Gesserit, whatever you want to give me. Like I want that. Or even a Chani.
What if oh my goodness. We've talked about them so much. But like, I would love to see Stephanie Hans do, like, Stephanie Hans can just do all the Dune, please and thank you. I'm about to like just get off here and just write a very strongly worded like maybe email/tweet and be like, do this, please.
It's an Instagram post. You just tag her in it.
Yeah. Like, can I just get fan art even and just pretend? I'll pretend.
Yeah. Can I just get a commission from you and pretend this will be a cover? Yeah. Here is $500.
Yeah, for sure.
And also in the news, we had Sweet Tooth for Netflix. Cindy and I are the two who are just kind of like, meh.
I'm here for, I mean, when it comes to Sweet Tooth, like I enjoyed the story, but the artwork, because it's Jeff Lemire's artwork, like his isn't the best. And like when I think about really good artwork that goes along with his work, I think of Ormston from Black Hammer. And
Yes.
so like, do I wish that Sweet Tooth had maybe that? For sure. Has he worked with other artists that I think would be better than his own? For sure. But I still think that it's a great story, and I think that it would be really good for a Netflix adaptation.
I never really grabbed it because the art turned me off of it like immediately when I saw it on the shelf. And it also reminded me of that stupid Fall Out Boy song, Sugar We're Falling.
Yeah.
And I don't know what came first, that or Sweet Tooth. Also, this Sunday at 11 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 o'clock Pacific, we have Jennifer's pick for the book club, which is Monstrous by Mark Liu and Sana Takeda, she of the beautiful art. It'll be.
Ooh, what if Sana Takeda did Dune artwork?
I would be down for it as well.
Sorry, I just throw that out there.
I would even take Peach Momoko just because it'd be weird.
For sure.
So we've got the Comic Queen coming on with us once again, and we have Gambit back once again, who turns out he's had this book sitting on his shelf for 2 years and has not read it.
It only took me like begging to talk about it.
You didn't really beg.
I didn't really beg. I was just like, okay, it's my pick. So.
Yeah. I think I'll have my pick ready by Sunday. I'm still going back and forth. I'm waffling bad.
Just like flip a coin or like throw some runes out.
I'm just going to put a sigil on the door, maybe take some ayahuasca and come out.
And then like just go through the void and talk to Grant Morrison and then...
No, he would tell me to pick one of his books.
He would.
I think you should do Dune Patrol. Okay, so what was your first Hickman book? What brought you to the table?
East of West, like for sure, hands down is what. And I can't recall if Manhattan Project was out before that or after that, but like East of West came out, and I was like, man, like
Manhattan Project was the year before, 2012.
Got it. And so then East of West must have come out in like 2013 then.
Yep.
But I couldn't like really think of anything else that I hadn't really seen Hickman anywhere else other than East of West, but I knew like immediately reading it, like I just fell in love. Like, and obviously it had to do a little bit with Nick Dragata's artwork too. It's just a perfect blend. Like, you know, thinking about that like creator team, it was a perfect blend for it. So that's obviously what drew me in, but the story is just so beautiful and poetic, and that's what got me into it. And I remember like thinking to myself, like, reading more and more Hickman, like I haven't really read much else of his, but I love his work so much. I would consider him one of my favorite writers, even before reading all the other stuff, but I consider him to be one of my favorite writers, and he's so underrated. I remember thinking at the time, like no one really talks about Hickman. And then like in the past couple of years, I felt like he's just blown up. For good reason. But
definitely House of X, Powers of X, like got him on everybody's radar. For me, weirdly, I don't like hide the fact that I love horror. And 2007 for Marvel Comics, he did a couple of these like horror one-shots, Legion of Monsters, with like Satana, the Living Mummy. Just kind of stupid books. Like it's the I got my foot in the door with a big tooth, so I'll do whatever the fuck they give me. For me though, like his FF run is where I started to realize who he was. And at the time, FF had been a super stale book, but he was still kind of playing nice with the rules. Like he wasn't making them his own, but he put his spin on the team, but it wasn't what you'd call a Hickman book. Or as I like to call peak Hickman.
And you know, I think that you had mentioned it once, and so like I went and read the Fantastic Four. just the first volume. I hadn't read, I didn't read any of the others, but like you talked about that he like has big ideas. And after already reading East of West, which is just a big idea, and then doing what he did to X-Men, which is like really big ideas, and then going and seeing Fantastic Four, I feel like he didn't necessarily do like big ideas with it. But I think that when you take those characters like that, when you're at that point in your career, like, do you really want to rock the boat too much or not? I think he could have gone bigger, but maybe Marvel was like, no.
No, I feel like, he had an editor to put the reins on, like, look, this is the premier family book.
Yeah.
So don't fuck it. But he put in like the Future Foundation, the new costumes. He had Dale Eaglesham for a while, which Secret Six was Gail Simone's artist. Nick Dragotta for a while was on it with him. Had a pretty interesting. Steve Epting was on a good solid run with him. So he had some decent artists with him. And it's as he got more comfortable, you could see it kind of growing and branching out a little bit on that run. Where I feel like the Hickman we know really started to blossom was on the Avengers, New Avengers, where he took over on the Marvel Now, I think it was. Mm-hmm. And he was writing both Avengers books, and they were kind of coming together, and he was basically going to destroy the universe. Like all these universes were colliding with each other. He created the Thanos' Black Order, which we saw in Infinity War. So he like literally finally started putting his thumbprint on the universe. And then we got to Secret Wars, which Marvel fucking mishandled worse than any book I've ever seen. Oh, no. Before it ended, because it was running late, they went ahead and pushed out all the other books that ruined the ending. Like,
I feel like there was such a like pump up with it. And then, like, you're right, like, it just 100%, I don't know. You need to guide your readers into it, and I feel like they did, and then just, like, I don't know.
And that whole thing broke him, I think. Like, he went away from the big two for a while, like, quite a while. So, from Image Comics, Pax Romana came out 2002, 2008. I never read that.
Yeah.
He had Transhuman also, which I had never read. There's a lot of books by him that I didn't read early on. Manhattan Projects was one that apparently people really loved. I never got to. I know you were saying before you didn't really get to it either.
No.
So,
and I feel like I should, like, but I don't know.
I might go back now. And
yeah.
My friend Sid, she won't come on the air. Plus, they're 11 hours ahead where she's at, so being on right now is not an option. She had some thoughts on it. So, in her feelings, the book was abandoned. Although she later went back on Wikipedia and realized the book actually ended, but she couldn't tell that it ended. It was an incredible series, and then, like, towards the end, before it was completely abandoned, her words, not really what happened, she's like, it got bad. Like, the writing was bad. It generally just got bad. Like, 8 trades in or something, and then it just stopped. It was so good. I love those books. I don't know what happened there. I would still say that I love that series, but the non-ending was not great. And then followed up by, I just Googled it. I guess that last trade was supposed to be kind of an ending. Whatever.
Whatever. What a beautiful way to, like, review it. Just, like, whatever.
That is my friend, who also, I'm not going to lie, gave me a ton of shit because of last week's episode and my top 10. Basically, by me not putting enough Remender books on and Descender being an honorable mention, she said that she doesn't even know me anymore.
Once again, like, I feel like I was surprised. I mean, maybe it's just because, like, we joke about Remender. You have Rick Remender tattoos. And for some reason, like, that not ending up as much on the list. But, you know, it is what it is. There's a lot. Image has a lot. So you got to give credit to some of the other writers and artists.
And it led to you calling us precious.
Precious. It's very precious.
So those were some deep thoughts of hers on that. going back to Avengers, though, he added so much to that universe and put together odd teams, and then he brought back new universe characters like Night Mask and Starbrand, which kind of that Grant Morrison thing. Oh, people hate this, so I'm going to put my finger in it and start swirling it around, use it.
Yeah, I feel like not necessarily. I don't think that he did that with his run of like this recent like House of X, Powers of X as much. I feel like there was a little bit of that in there. But I felt like he did a good job keeping to main storylines and main characters with Fantastic Four. At least the volume 1 that I read, I feel like he did a Fantastic Four, or like really good, like a fantastic job on Fantastic Four doing that, because at least like, you know, we see Spider-Woman, we see Captain Marvel, and I think that they do that in mind, thinking about the upcoming series that are going to come out in the cinematic universe.
Yeah.
So like obviously like people are going to read that. So
after Manhattan Projects, we get to East to West, which I came in on that series late. Weirdly, the covers never really appealed to me. So when I'd go look at the shelf, because they were always so minimalistic, and then, you know, it's like, keep hearing about it, like, oh, check out East to West, or go to, and I'm like, I don't know. And then finally, like, I had one of those sales, so I picked up the first 2 trades. I'm like, okay, I'm interested after reading those, and then I just kept kind of going. I'm like, okay, and I just kept picking it up. The art took a while for it to grow on me.
So I really enjoy Dragata's artwork. I think that when it comes to the series, I think that perfect blend of artist and writer coming together, and I love the, like, I always refer to it as that like European science fiction feel. Not necessarily like Mobius, but almost there, almost.
Were you satisfied with the ending of the series?
Yes and no. Whenever I think about a series, I always think, are you, and I've said this before about, you know, I think you mentioned Paper Girls last week, is that you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And I think that I think it was time for it to end. I think that Volume 10 was only like, I mean, Volume 10 is coming out in July, but if you take a look at like the last 3, I feel like it's not enough to be an ending volume. But
my expectations were kind of like not very high for the end, so to a degree it kind of met what I was expecting, but in some ways I expected something a little more epic with the ending.
Yeah,
just because of how it was building up. Like, the last couple of issues were fucking bloody as hell.
Yeah, like, I mean, not, you know, obviously, spoiler alert, like, if you haven't read East of West, please pick up Volume 1. Maybe just, like, shut your ears for a couple moments. But, yeah, at the end, we do see, like, some bloody wars going on. I think that the resolution to that, like, it was bloody, but I do like the family aspect at the end and, like, that coming together. So I appreciated that, like, loose end kind of being tied up.
I have another message from Sid on this as well.
Yeah, on East of West.
Yes, it was flawless. Babylon is my child, and he can do no wrong.
Babylon is precious, and can we just also talk about Balloon?
Oh, Balloon was awesome.
Balloon is precious. Like, I don't know. I just thought that little relationship between them was really cute. And I think that what I do like about East of West as well is that even though it's bloody and it's gory and it takes on these like big poetic themes, it still manages to be heartfelt and have like really cute moments between the characters. Even if the characters hate each other, there's still moments that are just cute between them.
And Mal was awesome.
Yeah.
She was just badass.
Oh my goodness, yes.
The Dying and the Dead was another one by him I never read. Then we get to one I definitely read, and this to me was Hickman, like, just balls out on the table, and that's Black Monday Murders.
Black Monday Murders. I got it right here. I've only read Volume 1 of this. Volume 2 has already come out, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I don't think that I've picked that one up yet. But this one, it's it's very weird, and I feel like if you don't pay attention and you miss something on a page, you can kind of get lost in it.
You
But
have to read the exposition.
yeah, like there's so for anyone who hasn't read Black Monday Murders, and I think that you just like summed it up perfectly with um, Satanic Wall Street. Um, it's really good, and I feel like if I was going to give this one an elevator pitch, I would say, what were the Da Vinci Code? Da Vinci Code meets True Detective on Satanic Wall Street is how I would put it. Like, if you're into conspiracy theories and you're into like thinking about monetary global rule and trying to like figure it out, this is for you.
Yeah, basically, it's based the wealthiest families that Wall Street itself is kind of satanic, and you have to basically make a sacrifice to correct the market. So anytime there's been a crash, they've had to sacrifice somebody to it.
I think it even brings up a couple, like it brings not necessarily satanic, but it brings up like pagan holidays like Samhain and talking about how they're about like sacrifices being made and how you never see a day ending, or sorry, you never see a day beginning on Wall Street November 1st. You never see a bad day on November 1st on Wall Street, like after this like pagan holiday. So
I'm laughing how you call it Samhain because all I remember is Donald Pleasance in Halloween 2 going, Samhain, the festival.
I mean, no, no, it's pronounced the holiday. For anyone who doesn't know, I don't want to shame anyone who doesn't know. And I think in popular culture, a lot of people call it Samhain because that's what it looks like. But in pagan culture, it is called Samhain. Even though it's Samhain, it's pronounced Samhain.
It just, because Donald Pleasance, as Dr. Loomis says it, is that like 2 or 3 times. And there was one video reviewer who's like, Samhain. Samhain.
Samhain.
It's a weird murder mystery, and of course, this came out after True Detective, so it kind of has that vibe where you're just waiting for, Matthew McConaughey. Time is a flat circle. Time beer cans.
100%. I think that because there's a detective in this book, and I think that he is a little bit more likable than those characters in the first season of True Detective. But I also think that this character falls flat a little bit, and I mean that in that it just feels a little bit tropey. Like, I've seen this detective character so many times in like 1,000 other iterations.
The skeptical detective,
and give me a call, or like I feel like because he goes to several different people throughout the entire series, and they're always basically letting him go, and I'm just like, you're the most powerful like people in the world, and like you kill people to get your profit and to live longer, and you just have no qualms about like killing this detective. I don't know, but
I felt like this book was the perfect preparer of what you were going to deal with in House of X, Powers of X, with all the exposition, and you have to follow every little piece, like with the code for Krakoa.
Yeah, I was just so like there's a moment like they do a lot in Black Monday Murders. There's like a language. So right here on this page, you can see where there's like a language, and no one really knows what it says, even though one of the characters speaks it. And then there's even another page, and you can see like where they do this, where they have like a little family tree. And I'm like, I saw this exact thing in House of X, Powers of X. They do a lot of, but House of X, Powers of X like needed that bad because there's a lot of that. See if I can find the page I'm thinking of. So I don't know if the editor of House of X, Powers of X was the same book editor for this, for Black Monday Murders, but yeah. There's just all of this like I don't want to give away too much. That was maybe a bad. Sorry, I woke up my cat right here. I feel like after reading a lot of these, one of the biggest themes in all of these books, even though they are so vastly and wildly different, so many of the themes in this book seem to be anti-war and almost like anti-capitalism. Did you get any of those vibes from any of these?
It very much kind of had the anti-capitalism vibe. It's interesting because the fact that it became like a Satanist thing too, like oh god, it's been a while since I read it. I kept meaning to reread it and I didn't do it because I suck.
One of the, I think it's like at the beginning. So in like, you know, once again, Black Monday Murders, if you haven't read it, these powerful financial institutions basically run the world. And there is at one point this professor who's standing in for a class, kind of teaching some students and who are coming into the financial institute, I guess, like the next generation. And he's saying something to them along the lines of, you know, you may make your first million on with your own blood, sweat, and tears and, you know, your own hard work, which even that's a myth. But he says anything after that first million, do not fool yourself. You are doing it on the backs of anyone. Like, you may make some money off of like your own grit and determination, but the richer that you get, the more that you are hurting other people and you are sacrificing other people's lives to make that money. So when I heard that, I'm like, I don't know. I felt that in my bones.
The art in it by Tom Coker, it's weirdly like it's so dark and drab, but yet like it kind of grabs you in. And like the one demon that I can't remember what the girl's name is that she has following around with her that may or may not be her concubine lover too.
Yeah, there was one scene, but I think between them, and it's all implied. Kind of, to me, I'm just like, make it queer, you cowards. Like, just give us gay people in comics, please.
The contrast of black and white that they use constantly, and it's drab, but it kind of brings you into the story a bit more. And again, like you stop and start reading like the little Wall Street story stuff, and it's like, okay, and it keeps flipping through murder mystery, Satanism, arcane shit.
Family dynamics.
Very much. There is like, it is interesting because that detective at certain points is very interesting, and other points you don't know why he's in the story. When he's talking to the economics teacher was probably the most interesting he was.
Yeah, for sure.
And that would bring us now into, of all things, House of X, Powers of X, which Rob Liefeld hates, said it was boring.
Oh, well, you know, good. Can we just all agree, like, I don't know. I know he's done some fantastic stuff, but like if Rob Liefeld thinks this is trash and any artwork that he's come out with he thought was good, then, you know, we know who the real winner is right now.
Also, people were accusing Hickman of stealing the story. There was a novel called The Many Lives of, I can't remember the full name of it, but the Moira story with her dying and coming back kind of is almost the same story as this novel that's now getting turned into a movie. So the legend is that this actually was a Legion of Superheroes story that Hickman showed up to DC with, and they kind of said, no, we're not doing that. So Bendis got it and got to rewatch it.
I think Bendis is the right writer to do that. And I'm glad that happened. I think that was a right move.
I would have been curious to see how this would work as a Legion story, though, to a degree, though. Just a tiny bit, just because I don't think Hickman's really ever done any kind of work for DC.
Yeah.
This was fresh and new. X-Men to me had gotten very stale to the point where I had stopped kind of collecting. And nothing against the creators that were doing it. Like, I like Matthew Rosenberg, but it just wasn't hitting. X-Men's always been a very progressive book. And it's like it ran out of things to fight against.
For sure. And I mean, I think what this series really does is because you see it go into the future so far, like we get little glimpses where it's like year 100 and then we see year 1000 and we just see this like evolution of things going on. And that to me, I really enjoyed that. And I think comic books do that a lot in general, like not just with X-Men, but with so many other titles. Is like we've got reboots and, we've got New 52 and, Rebirth, and we've got all these things going on. That happens a lot. But I think that this did it just so well. And if you were in a comic book store in 2019, this was the book that was bringing people into the store. These stories were.
I really enjoyed Pepe Larraz's art on House of X in particular. Nothing against Silva on Powers of X, but Powers of X for some reason didn't hit me as much as House of X did.
Yeah.
The weird time jumping between the books kind of threw me off at times, because there was one issue that explains Moira that honestly I think was the best issue of the whole run.
When I was rereading this in like the collected issue as opposed to like single issues, and like I saw this, it reminded me of one of my favorite like stories, movies, which is Cloud Atlas. And they do a really good job of like going forward and going backwards, which like if you haven't read Cloud Atlas or watched it, like, man, like it's one of my favorite movies. I've seen it literally 1,000 times. I have seen this movie. So I think that when I read, especially when you see the Myra story where we go back and she goes up to Charles Xavier and says, like, yes, we do know each other. And then it explains her story. Like that's the point where I really just fell in love.
The most powerful resonating moment was when she has her run-in with Mystique and Destiny.
Mm-hmm.
When Destiny's like, you're going to stop. I'm going to make this death painful so you remember every last bit of it.
Mm-hmm.
It was such a vicious moment in the book. And I was like, holy shit. Because Destiny's one of those characters in the past, like she was just always Mystique's.
Yeah.
Well, unless she's a lover, but in the past she was her companion, lifelong friend. This was just fascinating to make her that vicious, and Moira having powers now also, like that's something that's never happened for her. Yeah. And Hickman made her compelling, which is something that had never happened before. Moira just always was milquetoast.
Mm-hmm. I'm a big Magneto fan, and I really enjoy what Magneto does. Cloud Atlas is one of my all-time favorite books. So good. So Tattered, if you I don't know if you've read this, but seriously, I think Cloud Atlas does such a good job of like jumping fast forward and back and doing it in specific moments, and it literally links like 6 or 7 different stories, going from like a transatlantic slave ship to Neo Tokyo, and man, it's really, really good. So when this does that, and it's like, okay, we're kind of in the past, okay, we're year 100, okay, we're year 1000, like, and then goes back and forth. It does a really good job of that.
I'm actually surprised I never recommended Black Monday Murders to Tyrant and Broken, because it's got Satanism. She loved True Detective season 1. I'm slipping.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should pick that up, Nicole.
I don't know necessarily what they're going to be doing with the X-Men Marvel franchise, like really coming up. But I would love to see this as a show, like especially the way when we saw Myra's story, I was like, I see this as like its own standalone episode. I just thought that was really cool. I don't know if they can ever really do stuff with Netflix again.
No,
Like,
it would be
what
Disney
the-
Plus.
Yeah, but I definitely, I could see this as some type of show or series rather than a movie series, unless they did like 3 movies out of this, because it's a lot. It's a lot of stuff going on in House of X, Powers of X.
Very much so. Also in the Marvel line, he did Shield with Dustin Weaver. A lot of Ultimate Comics, Thor, The Ultimates. A lot of this was kind of all leading in like 2012, 2013. He did a lot of books. He wrote a lot. Infinity with Jim Chung, I forgot about. And it was with Jim Chung, Jerome Opena, and Dustin Weaver. Opena, from that beautiful, beautiful book, Seven to Eternity with Rick Remender. His Marvel, the amount of work he did for Marvel from 2007 on was pretty gigantic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Nicole, it's definitely in your wheelhouse. Like you, definitely, you're gonna like it. You just gotta remember, you gotta read every fucking panel.
Yeah, and the same way that he does with House of X, Powers of X, he does a lot of that. Like there's an entire, I would say it would make the equivalent of about half an issue where you're just reading a script. So you're just reading this for a little bit. And so there's a little bit of that like ebb and flow in this book. But right after this, there is a scene where the detective is talking to one of the suspects, and it ends up turning batshit crazy, but in a really fun way. So highly recommend.
For awards and nominations, from in 2008, he was nominated for Best Limited Series for Nightly News. 2011, Best Continuing or Limited Series for Fantastic Four for a Harvey Award. 2013, nominated for Best Continuing Series and Best Writer Eisner Award for Manhattan Projects. 2014, nominated for Best Continuing Series for East of West and Best Writer for East of West, Manhattan Projects, Avengers, and Infinity War. Nominated for all 4 of them.
Wow. And even thinking about during that time, still thinking of him as like an underrated writer, and he's still winning all of these awards. Like, I don't know. I feel like he should be up there with those names.
I would say up until X-Men, really, he was still not mentioned with the top writers. Which, I mean, then again, we just saw Warren Ellis a week or 2 ago say that he's a middling writer.
A middling career for fucking Warren Ellis, who, Jesus. I think the reason why East of West in particular and Hickman as a writer maybe are a little bit underappreciated, at least up until now, especially when I think about series from Saga. Like Saga was out for Image, so maybe East of West was just like competing with Saga a little bit for some shelf space. And man,
well, there was in that period of time, like Image put out actually like a pretty heaping sum of like books all at once that like.
And I think Descender was maybe coming out in like what, 2014, 2015?
Something like that. Witches was coming out right around then. Nailbiter was coming out around then. You had Thief of Thieves by Kirkman that was coming out or out already. God, there was a lot of books. Rat Queens.
Rat Queens was
right around 2014, 2015, somewhere around then.
Yeah.
Image during that time all of a sudden started putting out like a heaping of books that were all good to great, I guess. Like, so it was kind of easy to get lost in the shuffle, especially if you didn't know how to hand sell those books.
Yeah. And I think that when it comes, like we talked about a little bit on last week's episode when we really just like ran through our favorite Image titles, and specifically like that was when I fell in love with Image, is that like 2012 like with Saga and all the titles that you just mentioned, like that just really great era of Image Comics, that's what did it for me. Like that's what made me fall in love with like getting more single issues other than just like, I think at that point I was just reading like Batwoman and maybe like 2 or 3 other titles, but that was what really got me into getting single issues and then falling in love with a local comic book store. So
seeing if I could find.
I think you can really tell. You mentioned like hand selling at comic book stores. I think that that's when you can tell the difference between a good comic book store and a bad comic book store. Is for me, if they sell a lot of Image titles, then I'm like, that's what I'm there for. I think a lot of the bigger titles, the bigger names from, you know, Marvel and DC, those two almost sell themselves, because you're going to have people that come in every week and they're going to come in just for Flash or just for Batman and just for those, like, their character buyers, and not necessarily like artist, writer, creator buyers. Where Image, I think, definitely has a fan base that's, you know, I'm going to buy because of a creator, or I'm going to buy because of a story, not necessarily like I'm just going to buy this one character.
Very much so. Like Brubaker is a guy, like he puts something out, I'm going to check out. Rucka puts out something, I'm going to check out. Ooh, Lazarus, I think, was during that time frame.
Oh.
Lazarus was pretty close to in that time frame too. Happy by Grant Morrison was out in 2012. And just like every episode, we always have a glitch, and Jennifer has now become one with the Matrix. I wish I could say this doesn't happen often, but it happens often. Definitely, like Hickman, I would go check out his Avengers run if you want that superhero goodness, and it's pretty dark. Well, it's not just pretty dark; it's very dark. Universes and planets are dying. Earth's every issue. You had them fighting alternate versions of the Avengers. You also
Technical difficulties there. I apologize.
I was just talking about Avengers being very dark, and you know they're killing alternate Earths every issue basically, and Submariner kills a lot of Earths, and he becomes an outcast because of it, because he made the tough decisions they wouldn't. And it's got a lot of Infinity Stones in it. All of them have an Infinity Stone. I really thought I'd be better prepared for this, and I was not. And I'm not sure how this episode's working right now.
It's so funny because I was like, man, I really need to check out like Manhattan Projects, and I need to check out this. And I ended up reading Fantastic Four, which I would have never really like read if it wasn't just for Hickman writing it. But there's so much, and seeing how he's done a story like East of West, and he's done a story like House of X, Powers of X, and like all of these stories, they're so different, but like he really does have a style of writing. And I don't know if it's the like weird info dump things that he gives you, like if that's his style, but
very much so. I think that's where like one of the last episodes I talked about peak Hickman, where like I'm gonna hit you with all this exposition, I'm gonna make you have to work to get through this book, which is funny because Cinia loves the House of Falling Leaves by Danielewski, and 100% this is that book that makes you work. And like Danielewski has that weird typography where
like
you actually have to shift the book to read it. That's aggravating, and I can see people getting aggravated reading some of these Hickman books. Like, I don't want to look at these symbols. Like, why is this tree here? And like the genetics and powers of X, how they created some of these newer mutants. For me though, I love info dumps because I read Dune, and that had like info dump after info dump of
every chapter began with an info dump.
Basically,
we get a Princess Bookworm just.
Oh, look at her! She has her books. That's her life now. She'll never have love. She'll have her books though.
Yeah. what do you feel like? Do we know what's next for Jonathan Hickman right now?
Still doing Dawn of X. Black Monday Murders, I hope, comes back sometime soon. Because it's felt like a year since that last came out.
Yeah.
What is a book that you'd like to see him write?
That's really tough because...
Or like a character you'd like to see him take on?
I think that he's just doing really good things with doing the X-Men stuff right now. Maybe if I could see, I know that there's a little bit going on with magic, but if I could see a little, maybe him do magic or even like more Magneto. If I really loved the way that he wrote Magneto in House of X, Powers of X. So if I could see more of that, I would be very, very happy.
I would love to see what he could do with Superman.
I think that he'd
go full Krypton.
And you're probably going to fucking hate me for saying that. Get your drink ready. And I really did not mean to do this. I feel like he would do a Tom King with like and maybe it's just because like, you know, what he did with Vision and what he did. Oh my goodness. What's that other title?
Strange Adventures.
Yeah. Strange Adventures and Miracle Man. Like, I think that Hickman would if he did Superman, it would almost be like that.
I don't know. Like, part of me thinks it would become really fucking weird, but at the same,
which I'm okay with.
Yeah.
I'm okay with weird, and I think that the characters that we see, like those beloved characters, I would almost like to see him if he was going to do DC. Like, if he did Batman, I think would be kind of fun.
I don't think Batman's weird enough for him.
I want Batman to get weird.
Because Superman, well, Grant Morrison went weird.
That is true. That is true. When, you know.
Because I feel like, maybe Martian Manhunter.
Yeah.
Because then you go to the whole Martian back stuff and like have info dump after info dump.
Big idea. Like when I really think
or Hawkman, like, even.
Yeah, that would be fun.
He'll get Watchmen. They'll reboot it. It'll be Hickman doing it.
I don't know about that. Like, man, with the rebooting of Watchmen with HBO, I fucking loved that series. The HBO. I mean, obviously, like, I love the original. I never read the before Watchmen books. I never did that. But I really enjoyed the HBO series.
Didn't watch the HBO series yet.
I think that it does a really, really good job. It ended in a way that I felt like was very concise and I enjoyed it. And then I heard that they announced a second season, and that kind of pisses me off because I don't want a second season. I
thought they canceled it.
Oh, maybe they did. Like, with everything going on, maybe they did. I kind of hope so. Maybe they heard my like hashtag thoughts and prayers, but
I don't know. Like, I'm still like, when the Sweet Tooth announcement happened, I was like, look, Deadly Class was cast brilliantly. The Russos did it. It still got canceled.
Yeah.
And it was fucking great.
I think what it is, and Deadly Class is really fun, but I think that it is bleak, but I think that there's been a saturation of, we're going to get this gang of kids who go to school and learn how to become like superheroes or assassins or things like that. Like, you know, with Umbrella Academy and Deadly Class. And I think that there was one other one that came out, and I think that things just got like a little bit saturated in the market. So
I remember telling someone, I was like, Deadly Class, it's like Hogwarts for assassins, except everybody's fucking broken.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I thought I'd really have a lot more to say on this, and again, I didn't prepare as well as I should have.
I don't know. Like, I feel like I could gush so much about House of X, Powers of X. Like, I feel like as much as I love East of West, and that's one of the series that just really, like, alongside Saga, just I absolutely love. I feel like what he is doing with this, like, seriously, like, people need to read House of X, Powers of X. Like, I'm going to pull a saga on you and be like, you need to buy this. I will, like, read this to you as a bedtime story at night if you need that. Like, please pick up House of X, Powers of X. It's a thick boy, girl, thick boy, whatever, whoever you want it to be.
The thing that, like, I think damages that book for me now is what came after it.
With
Dawn of X, all the spin-off titles, because it was a lot of fat that they put out that didn't need to be there.
It is a lot, especially because we got Marauders, Excalibur,
Fallen Angels,
and then there's like 2
New
more.
Mutants. Then there was the 2 X books.
Yeah, so that is a lot.
And X-Force and
to get all of those, like, for sure, it's a lot. And I think that when it comes to all of those, like, Dawn of X titles that we just mentioned, it's a lot. Like, you're finding yourself picking up all of those titles every month, and it gets confusing. You kind of have to, pick what kid you want to kill.
Oh, I killed Fallen Angels really fast, and Excalibur.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed Excalibur, to be honest. I enjoyed that one.
I had to get Marauders because of Kitty Pryde.
Of course.
I had to get New Mutants because of Magic.
Yeah.
Because Magic is just one of my favorite characters.
For sure. I would really love to see, like, get her, just, like, really, like, dig into her a little bit more. And if you mentioned Tula Lote earlier, man, like, that'd be beautiful.
Honestly, it's Stephanie Hans is the one I think would kill it with her.
Yeah, for sure.
100%, especially with her kind of almost like painted art style. I would also weirdly love to see Greg Toccaccini's take on her.
Yep.
Speaking of, when this all relaunches with Diamond, Low will be back and ending.
Yeah. Is there, 2 more?
5 issues left.
5 issues. Got it.
Yes.
Got it.
So it'd be 1 trade worth, but, Remender's been dumping the covers and showing them, like, just give it to me already.
Yeah.
And, of course, Nailbiter will be back first week of June.
Yeah. So apparently, I know that this upcoming week, there's supposed to be a couple more comic books coming out on the 20th, next Wednesday. A lot of places have, I feel like the majority of, like, us, like, doing these has been in quarantine. And now we're, like, finally coming out of it. And it's like, okay, we finally have new comic book day again next week.
Not this week, it's the week after.
Okay. Maybe they're doing, like, just some limited stuff on the 20th.
It's DC still, like,
yeah.
Which it was funny because I saw people with comics in their hand the last 2 weeks on a Tuesday.
Yeah, that's weird to me, man.
Yeah, my store, my LCS, they're back open, but he chose not to go with the 2 new distributors, so he's just gonna stay with Diamond. So he has no new books.
Same with I reached out to my old LCS talking about it, who is open back up in Florida, and basically the same thing. Unless you want to have some disruptions, like, he's gonna keep going with Diamond. So,
which I can respect that. I don't know. Like, I've heard stuff with DCBS now. Their sweetheart deal with getting DC trades now because they own in stock trades apparently. So
I think that once again, like, those. And especially when I think about Midtown, I get it to a sense, because it's like, those are the companies that can help with the logistics. Like, they already have the logistics set up to do these types of things, but it's kind of a punch in the gut for other retailers who are buying from their competitors.
Yeah.
And especially for places that do a lot of online retail, now selling and delivering to, like, brick and mortar stores, it really does feel like it's betrayal.
So the big question is, how does Diamond after this come out?
I think that the
Do
biggest
they make changes, or do they just do business as usual and fuck everyone?
I think that if I was a retailer and I was going to give a list of demands to Diamond, it would basically be wrap up your shit. Like put it in some type of
Packaging.
packaging, if you can make it like sustainable, at the very least, if you could just go ahead and do that, like please give better discounts for retailers. Like I know that you have to be at a like level to get discounts.
That is actually set by the publishers.
Oh, well, still, I think that Diamond could help do some of that.
Because that's why Marvel they upped their discount for during that time. So they control what the discount is and how much you order. Like I'm sure when the publishers do that, they kind of ruin what Diamond takes cut of.
Yeah. Like who takes that cut? Would it be the publisher or would it be Diamond? But I think that Diamond could also, I know that they have representatives that local comic book stores have where if you have an issue, you go through your representative. Sometimes some representatives are apparently good, some are bad. So maybe just more consistency. I think the biggest thing would just be like be a little bit more delicate in the process of like Diamond shipping stuff. And I hear a lot of Diamond cutting, like people are missing titles. I think that would be just another point of contention. Like,
to be fair, though, the two shops I worked with, they would kind of fuck with Diamond back, where they'd have nothing damaged, but they'd call in damages and shortages just to fuck them.
I mean, that sucks, but
I've seen it happen. It is stuff that happens, and it's not just one store; it's a couple of stores that do it.
Yeah.
Again, because Diamond kind of fucks with them too, or they get stuff damaged all the time, like statues.
Oh yeah.
And they call Diamond. Diamond was like, well, it might be another month before we get to you. It's like, great, my customer's here now. So
yeah, and then at that point, especially if you live in an area that has multiple comic book stores, then it's like, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and like go to the other comic book store and try to get it. So
yeah, it's a broken system. And I'm kind of curious whenever they have that next Diamond retailer breakfast, how that's going to go, because also DC, when they have their, meeting with retailers, how's that going to go? Especially with like people like Hibbs there and a couple of other people who are fucking angry at them.
I think that I'm really surprised that Diamond hasn't come up with a way to, and I could see this ultimately in the long run becoming a bad thing for local comic book stores. But if there was like a digital system where a customer could say, this is what I want, I'm going to prepay Diamond for it, but like somehow like come into the shop and pick it up and the shop gets the money. Like if there was a way to like manage your pull list or your pull subscription with Diamond specifically, like I could ultimately see them like fucking over local comic book stores and, years down the line saying, now we're just going to go straight. We're basically going to cut the middleman of comic book stores.
The funny thing, they'd never be able to sustain it. That place is so fucking mismanaged.
I think so. Obviously, like I think so, but they are basically one of the only people, and it sucks. I mean, now, we've got the DC stuff going on and like one or two others, but Diamond is who you have to go through. Like comic book stores have to go through them to get comics.
Completely off subject, but what are you watching?
So today, and you didn't even say anything. How rude. I dyed my hair and you didn't even say anything. So anyways, whatever.
I'm sorry, my contrast is off. I dyed mine too. So.
But I know. Okay. Anyways, whatever. So because I have the shaved head and I dyed it black, anytime I look like this, my thought immediately goes to Zorg from Fifth Element. So I watched Fifth Element this morning. I've also, I don't know if I've brought it up on this show, but I've been watching My 600-Pound Life, and I really love it. And I'm like not making fun of any characters. Like I truly love like the process that they go through, and it's like it's cool to see that transformation and to see people be happy. So like I'm just watching trash television. Basically, I watched some Catfish because that's where I'm at in my life.
Oh God.
Yeah, that's the barrel, the bottom of the barrel that I'm scraping right now. I feel like I did watch something recently. But yeah, that's mostly been it.
I put on the Joe Bob Briggs Shudder drive-in thing and left that on, like going completely the other day.
Yeah.
And I watched every playlist of it where they, interrupt like almost what would be a commercial break and they talk about the movie, and they had a couple of the Halloweens, Chopping Mall, Brain Dead, a lot of fucked up movies. But I left that on and just kind of was multitasking and doing a bunch of different stuff. And Halloween I kept like looking up, going, love that movie still. I really haven't watched anything like I documentaries. I also watched The Toy Box, which I regret.
I did watch the Beastie Boys documentary. Like, I thought that was all right.
That kind of seemed like it wasn't so much a documentary and more them just standing and talking about.
I feel like it was more of like a TED Talk type thing.
Yeah.
Necessarily. And I mean, it was kind of cool. It was very, I mean, and like I've listened to Beastie Boys before. Like I know like a little bit about like, Yauk dying and all of that, but I don't know too much about him. It was really interesting to hear them talk about basically how much they hate their first album, like how they feel like, I guess they've completely separated themselves like emotionally as artists from that first album and just do not like it. So that was kind of weird because I'm like, that's kind of what you're known for. I feel like that's your bread and butter, but I get it because they were like 17, 18-year-old kids at the time making that music. So,
well, Ministry, their first album with Sympathy, Al Jorgensen calls it the abortion album.
Yeah.
Because when they were doing synth pop.
Yeah.
You do it again now.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie.
I like
Revenge. Revenge is like one of my club hits. Like I hear that song in the club, and I'm like, dance floor right now.
Need ain't got done what you need. You dig? Yeah. They used to play that at Visage in Orlando quite often. I love that song. It's Nicola's the one who got me turned on to. She was the one who told me to watch it, and I put it on the other day.
It's on Shudder, but
yeah,
you said it's like a drive-through thing, like
drive-in. Like they have different seasons, and like he'll like sit there and he has his co-host with him, and they'll talk about the movie beforehand, and then at different times they break back to them and they'll talk about little factoids from the movie. It's kind of dumb, and he's kind of a hick, and he's just drinking beer during it. The co-host he has with him is like a very kind of interesting goth girl. I can't remember her name. I'm bad about. I'm going brain dead today.
You said goth girl, and I'm here for it. I'll be watching it tonight, I assure you.
Yeah. The Halloween one, of course. There's always interesting factoids about that movie and how it should have never worked, and people told John Carpenter it wasn't scary because when they watched it originally, it didn't have the score.
For any movie is like that. Like The Lighthouse is like that, and it wouldn't get it.
I couldn't tell you the score on The Lighthouse. I don't know if there was a score.
There was.
There was fucking seagulls getting beaten to death, which Why are you laughing? It was brutal.
That movie was just like insane, and I really feel like I need to watch it again. I'll probably pay another 99 cents.
No, it's on Amazon. It's on Amazon Prime Instant.
I don't have Amazon Prime.
So. Oh,
yeah.
Damn.
Yeah,
it's on there. You and Cindy calling it a fucking comedy. I was like, what are you talking about?
That's because it is a comedy. You farts. You fucking farts.
Oh god.
And Robert Pattinson just like dreaming of that mermaid puss, like that mermaid cloaca. Like, I'm telling you, man, it's a comedy. You can say what you want, but it's a comedy.
Oh boy. Sunday night, 11 o'clock, join us for Monstrous. I swear I'll be better prepared, and we'll have some of our favorite guests on. Well, we'll have Gambit and the Comic Queen, and heading down to Tom King. Might even do the Goodbye Horses dance.
Goodbye horse. That's another one of my club hits. Like, for sure, I hear that, and then I just walk out there like this. Every time. Love it.
I watched the Jay and Silent Bob Clerks 2 version of it the other day.
Yeah.
Ooh, this is a good. Ooh, any of Hickman's work you'd like seen in TV or movie form?
I mentioned it a little bit before. I would definitely love
just the Moira.
Not necessarily just the Moira, but that was the one where I'm like, ooh, this works as one of those like standalone episodes. So if I could get this as a series, I think that would be really cool. But it would have to be like two seasons long. I don't know, maybe just one season, but.
I could see Black Monday Murders working in a True Detective type setting. East to West, the one, like I think Amazon was going to develop it at one point. I just don't know how that would translate.
I don't either. And I think that because since it ended, there would be like 10 volumes of it out. I think that there's a lot in it that could probably be cut out that you wouldn't necessarily need. So I would like to see it be like maybe a 3 or 4 season type show. I think would work really well. I don't think it would need to be 10 seasons long.
And there was a version of S.H.I.E.L.D. he did that was weird. Like it had Leonardo da Vinci and other like Nikola Tesla as the like early version of S.H.I.E.L.D. It was weird. Totally, like a Hickman book though.
Yeah.
I never finished it, and I remember there was like a huge gap before they finally ended it. Black Monday Murders to me is like the easiest they could translate to TV. Yeah. As far as movies, maybe East to West would work as a big budget movie.
Yeah, to me, it would almost have to be. I feel like East of West would do better as a show, just because there's so many characters. And then I think that if it was a movie, you wouldn't have enough time to establish the characters, unless you were doing what they're doing with Dune and just like splitting it up. And
I would be down for Sam Elliott as Archie.
Yeah. For like that would have to be,
or Kurt Russell, even like in the Tombstone version. It'd be very hard to fan cast that damn movie. There's way too many pieces. Maybe God, what was that kid from Wonder? Maybe he'd be Babylon.
Mm-hmm.
Or that creepy kid from Brightburn.
I was just thinking Brightburn for Babylon.
Manhattan Projects I didn't read, so I have no opinion on how that would do. And FF, I mean, it'd be interesting if they used his version for the FF movie and put Spider-Man in it.
I don't think that they'll ever do any, like, we're never going to see a Marvel cinematic where it goes strictly by the source material. Like, I don't think that we'll ever.
No, they
really
just
see
borrow
that.
bits and pieces.
They get bits and pieces and then do their own thing. So, like, as much as I really would love to see House of X, Powers of X do that, and especially in like its episodic form, like the way that the comic book goes, I think that it would do well. But I know I'll never see it.
I mean, I'll just be happy if we fucking get New Mutants out at this point.
Which apparently it is. I saw today. Apparently it's coming out in maybe August. I literally just saw that this morning.
Stuff keeps happening. Like Amazon accidentally posted as being VOD for pre-order, and then people freaked out. And then Disney's like, no, it's still coming out. And then Rob Liefeld's ranting about, I guess Marvel has no plans for Deadpool. And he's like, well, you're just throwing money away. Like, it's free money with it. And
I do agree. But I think that when it comes to Disney, there may be some issues there. Like,
it's a like nonstop runaway sentence dick joke.
Yeah.
The whole both movies.
100, and like, as much as that's fun, like, I enjoy that, but at the same time, like, you know, when I think putting Disney's like racist past behind,
what are you talking about? I mean, geez. Next thing you know, he'll be turning people in for, you know, being Reds. Oh, wait, that happened.
Yeah. Like, and even despite like all of that, and then Disney being on a high horse now, and I admit, like, with
wasn't he
what's the director
too? Oh yeah,
but the director of Guardians of the Galaxy,
James
Gunn, like, to me, like, if you're gonna fire him over like tweets that he said, and granted they were some fucked up tweets, from
10 years earlier,
and granted, if you have not seen James Gunn's PG porn, it's comedy gold. It's so good. When you're done with, I'll go ahead and I'll send you the links. It's so funny. It's so I quote bang bus every day. It's so good.
Okay, well.
So anyways, with Disney, like, all of a sudden, like, you know, they were like, oh, like, we're gonna fire you over these tweets that you said all these years ago. Like, I get it. The tweets were kind of fucked up, but
that he had apologized for.
He apologized for. And I think that, like, he did an apology in a graceful way, where sometimes we get apologies in a not very graceful way. Whatever. But I think that when it comes to Disney doing Deadpool, like, it's one thing to have a character it's one thing to have a creator who said some, like, dumb shit a while back. It's another thing to have that character say that dumb shit in a movie constantly. Like, there's no good way to make a PG-13 Deadpool.
No, not really. And also, like, would Disney have ever made Logan?
No.
Yeah. And that movie was fucking just great. But that's a way to make an R movie that's not just a dick joke.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, you know, thinking about, like, I have to count how many, like, cuss words we're saying, and, you know.
I don't, because I heard Feige say, like, he wanted 10 years before touching X-Men again.
I kind of see that in a way, because I think that even in, like, my lifetime in the past 20 years, seeing 3 different iterations of Spider-Man, like, that's a lot. So I can definitely see, like, okay, we're going to go ahead and step away from X-Men. I think the only way they could do it where they, like, reboot it again and introduce is if we get a different story. Because if they give us a new iteration of X-Men and it's just Professor X and just Magneto, as much as, like, I get it, those are the main characters, but X-Men is so much more that they should really, like, if they're going to reboot X-Men, like, just give me different, I don't know, give me something different.
I don't ever want to see Bryan Singer again.
No.
With those movies.
Throw them in the trash.
Like, ever. I mean, like, I like Ian McKellen. I will never say no to him being involved. Mm-hmm. Same with Patrick Stewart, but the time's come and gone. Like,
Yeah.
it's just start fresh.
Yep,
We all love
for
Hugh
sure.
Jackman, but
I think that one thing that they could do is do like they did in Star Trek with having Leonard Nimoy show up, like, and just for like a couple of scenes and be a part of it for a little bit and like give a nod to the past 100%. But I don't know. I think Michael Fassbender I really love, and what's his name?
McAvoy.
I really enjoy him as well, but I do think that I would like to see some other people play them.
I don't ever want to see Sansa Stark playing Jean Grey again.
I have feelings about that movie, and it's not fun, but
it's not fun or funny. It's just bad.
No.
One thing that I saw today, apparently Apple Plus or Apple TV or whatever they call it has a first look deal now with Ridley Scott, his production company. Yeah, for series. So I was like, okay, well, that's kind of, I'm interested.
Yeah.
It's just going to be David the Android.
Please.
His only interest. I had to have aliens in it to get this movie made, but
yeah.
I think we're at a good wrapping up point.
Yeah.
I got to start getting ready for work. This episode kind of got away from me a little bit. I had grand ideas, and then I sat down and I went blank. Maybe I'm not as big a Hickman fan as I thought.
Don't say that.
I don't know. Like I there's a couple of books I didn't read enough. I think.
I think that it's not on Hickman. It's on us as the consumers. Like, I feel like I should have read Manhattan Projects, but it's a series I've never delved into. So that would literally be reading like 7 books.
8
trades.
8
books on top of like rereading some of the other stuff. So.
Yeah, and then I maybe I should have waited more, but I was like, we keep talking about it. Whereas I feel like if we'd done Alan Moore, that could have filled 5 hours.
For sure.
I could have done an hour just on Swamp Thing, easy, like not a problem.
Yeah.
Grant Morrison, I'll have to get good and drunk or something else before I sit and talk.
Yeah. I'll be maybe as inebriated as he would want me to be.
I'll just be levitating off a cushion.
Yeah.
So again, join us Sunday. It'll be a packed house. I'll be drinking, among other things. The drinking game will be in effect. I don't know how Rob Liefeld will get mentioned somehow with Montrose.
Somehow, like, I feel like at this point, it's like 6 degrees of Rob Liefeld. Like, what like can we do?
I'm pretty sure that there's no way I can associate She Who Shall Not Be Named with this because I never had her read it.
Good.
So that's what. So thank you everybody who joined in and participated in the chat. Again, you might have tuned in for a random show, and we gave you not a random show and not a list show.
We gave you a very clear and concise episode, is what you're trying to say.
It did get random at a certain point.
Yeah.
We will have comics in 2 weeks to talk about. Might be pretty thick weeks. So picking 3 to talk about might be a little bit hard.
Yeah.
And I guess with that, do you have anything to add?
No.
All right. So again, join us, and you can find me at comic_chop_news, and Jennifer at Comic Books Will Break Your Heart, and anything for the Comic Lounge coming down the pipe.
Nope.
And hello, Perry. You caught us right at the end. It's good seeing you for this minute or two. So long, farewell, Auf Wiedersehen, goodbye.